I will. I'm thinking right I will. Yo, so I was looking at. Oh, first of all, YouTube, what's going on, man? I don't know. I was just singing that Usher, that nice and slow. It's 7 o'clock on the dot. I'm in a drop top, cruising the streets. Yo, I remember when I first heard that song when I was young. Um, I live in Atlanta now, but living in Atlanta then, I didn't even realize Jermaine Dupri had produced that song. But that's neither here nor there. We're here today for y'all know what it is. It's been a minute, man. Sorry, I had kept y'all waiting. I doubt anybody was waiting on this, but if y'all was, I apologize that y'all have not seen me. I've been diligently working on getting these books published, finishing the trying to work on saying because I listen to people and they say and I'm just like, why are you saying but I've diligently been working get this website going so I can send everyone to jbwaters.com to engage with me, to connect with me, to learn about what's going on, really, so I can learn about what y'all got going on in y'all lives. I can purchase all of these manuscripts that I'm releasing. I am working also on becoming a thought leader in giving authors a story to whatever book they wrote, giving authors a visual to whatever book they wrote before it can potentially turn into a movie. Like whatever and primarily to self-help and personal development. Because most books that turn into movies are like fiction books. So I'm really trying to give books that are non-fiction a vision and a narrative. So that is my goal right now. Tell me, do you wanna get? I don't know why I got that song stuck in my head. But yeah, man, how have y'all been? How have y'all been? YouTube, how have y'all been? Like I said, apologies for taking so long to get back to the richest man in Babylon. So I haven't been live in a while either. So I'm doing two things I haven't done in a while. Been live and have done a books in bed. But like I said, I've been working diligently on getting these books for y'all and getting these books for y'all to uh, be put on the website so y'all can go connect and see these books on the website. Do y'all see that? Is that like a little light there too? It's like a little line on the top. I don't know if that's me or what it is, but maybe is that just YouTube? Might be YouTube, but anyway, I'll look in the video afterwards. Live is just sometimes so annoying, so I don't go live that often. But yeah, man, I hope everybody has been enjoying their November. We're almost in December, almost at the end of the year, and being able to take a look back, really be able to take a look back and reflect on like what matters the most to you. What have you done? Do you have any goals? Like, there's a lot that can be said about this year, as far as politics, as far as deaths, rappers, just so much drama, so much pop culture, just so much. But I think if we start to really look at like how much that affects our life and if it really does matter, I think we notice that it's just like at the end of the day, we think all these things and then we forget to see like how much they don't matter to our overall health and wellness and just overall matter in general to like who we are as becoming better people, at least wanting to have the life that we think we want to have. And I think that's something that I'm trying to work on personally and just learning about like if people like do people truly even want to have a better life? Like what the fuck do people really want? Like in their heart of their hearts. And I go back and forth with that a lot and I still think that a lot of that is just a lot of people want a better life. A lot of people do want freedom. A lot of people do want money. A lot of people do want money and happiness. You can't have both. But I think the problem comes with how much work is required to receive that, to achieve that. And that's when it just plateaus and stops right there. And you kind of people are just like, I don't want to go farther than that. So I think that's a part of what I'm learning to just accept and understand like, yeah, people do want a lot in life, but what you want versus what you're willing to work for and be patient for is two different things, or two different conversations. So yeah, that's just what I've been thinking about lately. Yeah, y'all let me know what y'all think, man. I'm thinking about doing something called Money Monday and Finance Fridays, where I somehow discuss a book that's relative to those two topics, but also just talking about those two topics in general, as far as like just jobs and better ways to get a job, things you can do to improve your finances. Just, but as much as I've learned, I will speak about only what I learned and what I know and the things that I'm focusing on. And I think the things that I have in my life are something that most people don't have. Like, I think most people don't live while I live and also live by themselves and also take care of them kids pretty much primarily by themselves. And by the graces of God and what the universe has given me to be able to do that. So, like, I can at least talk about that because the average person still got a roommate or staying with their mom or have a spouse and they're splitting bills. Or even if it's a dude, he's like, I'm paying all the bills, but my wife got the kids taken care of. And I'm like, I'm doing all of that shit. I pay the bills, I take care of all my kids, the homework, the school, the dads with donuts, the after school programs, the little hard conversations with my teenage daughter, hard conversations with my younger son. So I feel like those are the things that I can bring to the table in relation to personal development, self-help, and finances. And I think it's a start because most people, what we do is we get so caught up in the dream of like wanting to have that elaborate life, and it's entertaining. Like, it's entertaining as fuck. Like, if you go on Instagram, if you go on YouTube, if you go on any like social media and you look at the people who get the most clicks, the most views, it's the people that have the entertaining glamour life or the drama. It's a stream. It's either really bad, really poor, dramatic, or it's really lavish and really elaborate and really like um inviting for the sake of the allure that comes with it. And it's like either those streams. It's not a middle side. So I think if you look at those videos and that content, you'll see they get all of the views. And it's like most people will never have either of those. Most people aren't like super fucking extremely poor, going through horrible toxic relationships. And then most people aren't like living really well in the top 1% with the nicest cars, living and taking pictures in Dubai and really about that life and not saying you just went because you saved a couple of checks. Then, you went for a weekend or stayed there for a week and came back to a miserable job when you were done. Like, there's people who really about that life for real. And I think people get caught up on the latter, as in saying like being able to aspire to have those things, but really not knowing the steps or willing to take the steps to do what it takes to have that. So I think if people can understand the value that I'm bringing, which, I mean, your five equals your tribe. So shouts out to all my 84, 85,000, 84, 84 followers. I was about to say 1,000 subscribers. Hopefully one day it'll get us 80,000. But shouts out to all of y'all, man. Because that's the value that I think I could bring you. Being able to like say like, these are the things that you can do right now with your life right now. What matters? Like, these are the money things you can do. These are the money books you can do. These are the money thoughts you can have. These are the spiritual health and wellness thoughts that you can have. These are the spiritual ideas that you can have. Because at the end of the day, man, I think we all do want more. We want more. It's just that gap between being accurate and realistic about exactly what it takes to have those things. All right, y'all. So that was my little 10 minutes on the intro back to live and my intro back into a books in bed. But yeah, I'm looking forward to books in bed, bro, and just the vibe over time and how it grows. And yo, this little line in this screen is killing me. I hope it's not there in the end. Most likely it is. If I see it here, y'all probably see it too. Like, it's like a little white line. I don't know what the hell that is, but oh well. Drop my Palo Santo. I dropped my Palo Santo. All right, let's get to it, man. Like, dang. Part of me is just kind of like, just feel like just talking some shit today on air. Just be like, I still got to do that one video. Let me tell y'all something that's crazy though. I had went and I was shooting a video for y'all. I was on a White Boys with Waters, and my phone had died, and I had got through it and everything because I had to do it on the reverse side so it don't look backwards when y'all reach the whiteboard, and I couldn't tell. And I had so much good knowledge for y'all. It's still up there too. I didn't erase it so I can do the lesson again, but I want to do that. I think the topic was why the rich are getting richer. Yeah, like just a few things that describe why the rich are getting richer. So I still want to bring that to y'all. I still feel that it's very valuable. So I'm definitely gonna bring that to the table to y'all and bring that um, to the channel. But yeah, man. Without further ado, let's get started. Where do we leave off at? Oh yeah, this is the last chapter too. So if I don't do no books been bad for a while, y'all, it's because I'm looking for a book to do. So this is the last chapter. The luckiest man in Babylon. At the head of his caravan proudly rode Sharunada, the merchant prince of Babylon. He liked fine cloth and wore rich and becoming robes. He liked fine animals and sat easily upon his spirited Arabian stallion. To look at him, one would hardly have guessed his advanced years. Certainly, they would not have suspected that he was inwardly troubled. The journey from Damascus is long, and the hardships of the desert many. These he minded not. The Arab tribes, fierce and eager to loot rich caravans. These he feared not, for his many fleet mounted guards were a safe protection. About the youth at his side, whom he was bringing from Damascus, was he disturbed. This was Hadan Gula, the grandson of his partner of other years, Arud Gula, to whom he felt he owed a debt of gratitude which he could never be repaid. He would like to do something for his grandson, but the more he considered this, the more difficult it seemed because of the youth himself. Eyeing the young man's rings and earrings, he thought to himself, he thinks jewels are for men. Still, he has his grandfather's strong face. But his grandfathers wore no such gaudy robes. Yet I sought him to come, hoping I might help him get a start for himself and get away from the wreck his father has made of their inheritance. Hadangula broke in upon his thoughts. Why dost thou work so hard, riding always with thy caravan upon its long journeys? Dost thou never take time to enjoy life? Sharunada smiled. To enjoy life, he repeated. What wouldn't thou do to enjoy life if thou wert Sharunada? If I had wealth equal to thine, I would live like a prince. Never across the hot desert would I ride. I would spend the shekels as fast as they came to my purse. I would wear the richest of robes and the rarest of jewels. That would be a life to my liking, a life worth living. Both men laughed. Thy grandfather wore no jewels, Sharunada spoke before he thought, then continued jokingly. Wouldst thou leave no time for work? Work was made for slaves, Harungula responded. Sharunada bit his lip but made no reply, riding in silence until the trail led him to the slope. Here he reined his mounting and pointing to the green valley far away. See, there is the valley. Look far down, and thou canst faintly see the walls of Babylon. The tower is the temple of Baal. If thy eyes are sharp, thou mayst even see the smoke from the eternal fire upon its crest. So that is Babylon. Always have I longed to see the wealthiest city in all the world, Harungala commented. Babylon, where my grandfather started his fortune, would he were still alive, would not be so sorely pressed. Why wish his spirit to linger on earth beyond its allotted time? Thou and thy father can well carry on this good work. Alas, of us neither has his gift. Father myself know not his secret for attracting the gold shekels. Sharunada did not reply, but gave rein to his mount and rode thoughtfully down the trail to the valley. Behind them followed the caravan in a cloud of reddish dust. Some time later, they reached the King's Highway and turned south through the irrigated farms. Three old men plowing the field caught Sharunada's attention. They seemed strangely familiar. How ridiculous. One does not pass a field after 40 years and find the same men plowing there. Yet something within him said, were you the same? One with an uncertain grip held the plow. The others laboriously plodded beside the oxen, ineffectively beating them with their barrel staves to keep them pulling. 40 years ago, he had envied these men. How gladly he would have exchanged places. But what a difference now. With pride, he looked back at his trailing caravan, well chosen camels and donkeys, loaded high with valuable goods from Damascus. All this was but one of his possessions. He pointed to the plowers, saying, still plowing the same field where they were 40 years ago? They look it, but why thinkest thou are the same? I saw them there, Sharunada replied. Recollections were racing rapidly through his mind. Why could he not bury the past and live in the present? Then he saw, as in a picture, the smiling face of Arugula. The barrier between himself and the cynical youth beside him dissolved. But how could he help such a superior youth with his spendthrift ideas and bejeweled hands? Work he could offer in plenty to willing workers, but not for men who considered themselves too good for work. Dang. Yet he owed it to Aragula to do something, not a half hearted attempt. He and Aragula had never done things that way. They were not that sort of men. A plan came almost in a flash. There were objections. He must consider his own family, his own standing. It would be cruel. It would hurt. Being a man of quick decisions, he waived objections and decided to act. Wouldst thou be interested in hearing how thy worthy grandfather and myself joined in the partnership which proved so profitable? He questioned, why not just tell me how thou madest the golden shekels? That is all I need to know. The young man parried. Sharunata ignored the reply and continued, we start with those men plowing. I was no older than thou. As the column of men in which I marched approached, good old Megadu, the farmer, scoffed at the slipshod way in which they plowed. Megado was chained next to me. Look at the lazy fellows, he protested. The plowholder makes no effort to plow deep, nor do the beaters keep the oxen in the furrow. How can they expect to raise a good crop with poor plowing? Didst thou say Megugu was changed to thee? Hadangulu asked in surprise. Yes, with bronze collars about our necks and a length of heavy chains between us. Next to him was Abado, the sheep thief. I had known him in Haroon. At the end was a man we called Pirate because he told us that it was his name. We judged him a sailor as he had entwined serpents tattooed upon his chest in sailor fashion. The column was made up of thus those men who could walk in fours. Thou wert chained as a slave, Harungula asked him incredulously. Did not thy grandfather tell thee I was once a slave? He often spoke of thee, but never hinted of this. He was a man thou couldst trust with innermost secrets. Thou too art a man I may trust, and I am not right. Sharunata looked him squarely in the eye. Thou mayest reply upon my silence, but I am amazed. Tell me, how did thou come to be a slave? Sharunata shrugged his shoulders. Any man may find himself a slave. It was a gaming house in Barley Beer that brought me disaster. Damn, same way as today. I was the victim of my brother's indiscretions. In a brawl, he killed his friend. I was bonded to the widow by my father, desperate to keep my brother from being prosecuted under the law. When my father could not raise the silver to free me, she in anger sold me to the slave dealer. What a shame and injustice, Harungula protested. But tell me, how didst thou regain freedom? We shall come to that, but not yet. Let us continue my tale. As we passed, the plowers jeered at us. One did doff his ragged hat and a bow low, calling out, welcome to Babylon, guest of the king. He wait for thee on the city walls where the banquet is spread, mud bricks and onion soup. With that they laughed uproariously. Pirate flew into a rage and cursed them roundly. What do these men by the king awaiting us on the wall? I asked him. To the city walls they march to carry bricks into the back breaks. Maybe they beat thee to death before it breaks. They won't beat me, I'll kill 'em. Then Megado spoke up. It doesn't make sense to me talk of masters beating willing, hard-working slaves to death. Masters like good slaves and treat them well. Who wants to work hard? Commented Zabado. Those plowers are all wise fellows. They're not breaking their backs, just letting on as if they be. Thou can't get ahead by shirking. Megado protested, if thou plow a hectare, there's a good day's work, and any master knows it. But when thou plow only a half, that's shirking. I don't shirk. I like to work and I like to do good work, for work is the best friend I've ever known. It has brought me all the good things I've had, my farm and cows and crops and everything. That's a tough statement though, right there. Yeah, and where be these things now, scoffed Zabado. I figure it pays better to be smart and get by without working. You out, Zabado, if we're sold to the walls, he'll be carrying the water bag or some easy job when thou, who like to work, will be breaking thy back carrying bricks. He laughed his silly laugh. Terror gripped me that night. I could not sleep. I crowded close to the guard rope, and when the others slept, I attracted the attention of Gotoso, who was doing the first guard watch. He was one of those brigades Arabs, the sort of rogue who, if robbed thee of thy purse, would think he must also cut my throat. Tell me, Godoso, I whispered, when we get to Babylon, will we be sold to the walls? Why want to know? He questioned cautiously. Canst thou not understand? I pleaded. I am young. I want to live. I don't want to be worked or beaten to death on the walls. Is there any chance for me to get a good master? He whispered back, I will tell you something. Thou good fellow, give Godoso no trouble. Most time we go first to slave market. Listen now. When buyers come, tell them you good worker. Like to work hard for good master. Make 'em want to buy, not make 'em buy. Next day you carry brick. You not make 'em buy. Next day you carry brick. Sorry, y'all. Mighty hard work. After he walked away, I lay in the warm sand looking up at the stars and thinking about work. What Megado had said about it being his best friend made me wonder if it would be my best friend. Certainly it would be if it helped me out of this. When Megado woke, I whispered my good news to him. It was our one ray of hope as we marched toward Babylon. Late in the afternoon, we approached the walls and could see the lines of men, like black ants, climbing up and down the steep diagonal paths. As we grew closer, we were amazed at the thousands of men working. Some were digging in the moat, others mixed the dirt into mud bricks. The greatest number were carrying the bricks in large baskets up those steep trails to the masons. Overseers cursed the laggards and cracked bullock whips over the backs of those who failed to keep in line. Poor, worn out fellows were seen to stagger and fall beneath their heavy baskets, unable to rise again. If the lash failed to bring them to their feet, they were pushed to the side of the path and left writhing in agony. Soon they would be dragged down to join other craven bodies beside the roadway to wait unsanctified graves. As I beheld the ghastly sight, I shuddered. So this was what awaited my father's son if he failed at the slave market. Godosu had been right. We were taken through the gates of the city to slave prison the next morning and marched to the pens in the market. Here the rest of the men huddled in fear, and only the whips of our guard could keep them moving so the buyers could examine them. Megado and myself eagerly talked to every man who permitted us to address him. The slave dealer brought soldiers from the king's guard who shackled Pirate and brutally beat him when he protested. As they led him away, I felt sorry for him. Megado felt that he would soon part. When no buyers were near, he talked to me earnestly to impress upon me how valuable work would be to me in the future. Some men hate it. They make it their enemy. Better to treat it like a friend, make thyself like it. Don't mind, because it is hard. If thou thinkest about what a good house thou build, then who cares if the beams are heavy and if it is far from the wall to carry the water for the plaster? Promise me, boy, if thou get a master, work for him as hard as thou canst. If he does not appreciate all thou do, never mind. Remember, work well done does good to the man who does it. Ain't that the truth? Remember, work well done does good to the man who does it. It makes him a better man. He stopped as a burly farmer came to the enclosure and looked at us critically. Megado asked about his farm and crops, soon convincing him that he would be a valuable man. After violent bargaining with the slave dealer, the farmer drew a fat purse from beneath his robe, and soon Megado had followed his new master out of sight. A few other men were sold during the morning. At noon, Godoso confided to me that the dealer was disgusted and would not stay over another night, but would take all who remained at sundown to the king's buyer. I was becoming desperate when a fat, good-natured man walked up to the wall and inquired if there was a baker among us. I approached him, saying, why should a good baker like thyself seek another baker of inferior ways? Would it not be easier to teach a willing man like myself thy skilled ways? Look at me. I am young, strong, and like to work. Give me a chance, and I will do my best to earn gold and silver for thy purse. He was impressed by my willingness and began bargaining with the dealer, who had never noticed me since he had bought me, but now waxed eloquent on my abilities, good health, and good disposition. I felt like a fat ox being sold to a butcher. At last, much to my joy, the deal was closed. I followed my new master away, thinking I was the luckiest man in Babylon. My new home was much to my liking. Nananade, my master taught me how to grind the barley in the stone bowl that stood in the courtyard, how to build a fire in the oven, and then how to grind very fine the sesame flour for the honey cakes. I had a couch in the shed where his grain was stored. The old slave housekeeper, Swatsi, fed me well and was pleased at the way I helped her with the heavy task. Here was the chance I had longed for to make myself valuable to my master, and I hoped to find a way to earn my freedom. I asked Nanane to show me how to knead the bread and to bake. This he did, much pleased at his willingness. Later, when I could do this well, I asked him to show me how to make the honey cakes, and soon I was doing all the baking. My master was glad to be idle, but Swasi shook her head in disapproval. No work to do is bad for any man, she declared. I felt it was time for me to think of a way by which I might start to earn coins to buy my freedom. As the baking was finished at noon, I thought Nana and I would approve if I found profitable employment for the afternoons and might share my earnings with me. Then the thought came to me, why not bake more of the honey cakes and peddle them to hungry men upon the streets of the city? I presented my plan to Nana this way. If I could use my afternoons after the baking is finished to earn for thee coins, would it be only fair for thee to share my earnings with me, that I might have money of my own to spend for those things which every man desires and needs? Fair enough, he admitted. When I told him of my plan to peddle our honey cakes, he was well pleased. Here's what we will do, he suggested. Thou sellest them at two for a penny, then half of the pennies will be mine to pay for the flour and the honey and the wood to bake them. Of the rest I shall take half, and thou shalt keep half. That boy coming up. I remember this part of the story. For a little second, y'all, I couldn't. I was forgetting. I was like, but now I remember the story. But yeah, I feel like I always end up reading or listening to this book on audio book like around every 2 to 3 years. Let's see, honey cake. Okay, here we go. I was much pleased by his generous offer that I might keep for myself 1/4 of my sales. That night I worked late to make a tray upon which to display them. Nana Nate gave me one of his worn robes that I might look well, and Swasi helped me patch it and wash it clean. The next day I baked an extra supply of honey cakes. They looked brown and tempting upon the tray as I went along the streets, loudly calling my wares. At first no one seemed interested, and I became discouraged. I kept on, and later in the afternoon, as men became hungry, the cakes began to sell, and soon my tray was empty. Nanane was well pleased with my success and gladly paid my share. I was delighted to own pennies. Megado had been right when he said a master appreciated good work for his slaves. That night I was so excited over my success I could hardly sleep and tried to figure out how much I could earn in a year and how many years would be required to buy my freedom. Man, to buy my freedom, but we still doing that to this day. There's a section in my book that I'm releasing for y'all called Money is an Art. And the chapter or the principle is the price of spending money is freedom, not money. And it's just like every time you spend your money, unless you have a lot, you're just spending your freedom because you use your time to make your money for most people. So made me think of that. As I went forth with my tray of cakes every day, I soon found regular customers. One of these was none other than thy grandfather, Aragula. He was a rug merchant and sold to the housewives going from one end of the city to the other, accompanied by a donkey loaded with rugs and a black slave to tend it. Always a black slave. Just kidding. He would buy 2 cakes for himself and 2 for his slaves, always tarrying to talk with me while they ate them. Thy grandfather said something to me one day that I shall always remember. I like thy cakes, boy, but better still, I like the fine enterprise which thou offerest them. Such spirit can carry thee far on the road to success. But how canst thou understand, Handangula, what such words of encouragement could mean to a slave boy, lonesome in a great city, struggling with all he had in him to find a way out of his humiliation? As the months went by, I continued to add pennies to my purse. It began to have a comforting weight upon my belt. Work was proving to be my best friend, just as Megiddo had said. I was happy, but Swasi was worried. Thy master, I feared to have him spend so much time at the gaming house, he protested. I was overjoyed one day to meet my friend Megiddo upon the street. He was leading 3 donkeys loaded with vegetables to the market. I'm doing mighty well, he said. My master does appreciate my good work, for now I am foreman. See, he does trust the marketing to me, and also he is sending for my family. Work is helping me to recover from my great trouble. Someday it will help me to buy my freedom and once more own a farm of my own. Time went on, and Nanane became more and more anxious for me to return from selling. He would be waiting when I returned and would eagerly count and divide our money. He would also urge me to seek further markets and increase my sales. Often I went outside the city gates to solicit the overseers of the slaves building the walls. I hated to return to the disagreeable sights, but found the overseers liberal buyers. One day I was surprised to see Zabado waiting in line to fill his basket with bricks. He was gaunt and bent, and his back was covered with welts and sores from the whips of the overseers. I was sorry for him and handed him a cake which he crushed into his mouth like a hungry animal. Seeing the greedy look in his eyes, I ran before he can grab my tray. Damn, boy. Why dost thou work so hard? Aragula said to me one day. Almost the same question thou asked of me today. Dost thou remember? I told him what Medigo had said about work and how it was proving to be my best friend. I showed him with pride my wallet of pennies and explained how I was saving them to buy my freedom. When thou art free, what wilt thou do? He inquired. Then, I answered, I intend to become a merchant. At that, he confided in me something I had never suspected. Thou knowest not that I also am a slave? I am in partnership with my master. Stop, demanded Hadungula. I will not listen to these lies defaming my grandfather. He was no slave. His eyes blazed in anger. Sharonada remained calm. I honor him for rising above his misfortune and becoming a leading citizen of Damascus. Art thou his grandson, cast of the same mold? Aren't thou man enough to face true facts, or dost thou prefer to live under false illusions? Damn, boy, you ain't gonna get nowhere like that, boy. Living under false illusions. Harungula straightened in his saddle. In a voice suppressed with deep emotion, he replied, My grandfather was beloved by all. Countless were his good deeds. When the famine came, did not his gold buy grain in Egypt, and did not his caravan bring it to Damascus and distribute it to the people so none would starve? Now thou say he was but a despised slave in Babylon? Had he remained a slave in Babylon, then he might well have been despised. But when through his own efforts he became a great man in Damascus, the gods indeed condone his misfortunes and honor him with their respect. Sharonada replied. After telling me that he was a slave, Sharonada continued. He explained how anxious he had been to earn his freedom. Now that he had enough money to buy this, he was much disturbed as to what he should do. He was no longer making good sales and feared to leave the support of his master. I protested his indecision. Cling no longer to thy master. Get once again the feeling of being a free man. Act like a free man and succeed like one. Ain't that the truth? Act like a rich woman, act like a rich woman man, and you will succeed like one. Act like a free man, and you will succeed like one. Act like a free woman, and you will succeed like one. Decide what thou desires to accomplish, and then work with aid thee to achieve it. He went on his way, saying he was glad I had shamed him for his cowardice. One day I went outside the gates again and was surprised to find a great crowd gathering there. When I asked the man for an explanation, he replied, Hast thou not heard? An escaped slave who murdered one of the king's guards has been brought to justice and will this day be flogged to death for his crime. Even the king himself is to be here. So dense was the crowd about the flogging post, I feared to go near lest my tray of honey cakes be upset. Therefore, I climbed up the unfinished wall to see over the heads of the people. I was fortunate in having a view of Nebuchadnezzar himself as he rode by in his golden chariot. Never had I beheld such grandeur, such robes and hangings of gold cloth and velvet. I could not see the flogging, though I could hear. I bet y'all these pages are stuck. The shrieks of the poor slave. I wonder how one so noble as our handsome king could endure to see such suffering. Yet when I saw he was laughing and joking with his nobles, I knew he was cruel and understood why such inhuman tasks were demanded of the slaves building the walls. After the slave was dead, his body was hung upon a pole by a rope attached to his leg so all might see. As the crowd began to thin, I went close. On the hairy chest I saw tattooed two entwined serpents. It was Pirate. The next time I met Arugula, he was a changed man. Full of enthusiasm, he greeted me. Behold, the slave thou knewest is now a free man. There was magic in thy words. Already my sales and my profits are increasing. My wife is overjoyed. She was a free woman, the niece of my master. She much desires that we move to a strange city where no man shall know I was once a slave. Thus our children shall be above reproach for their father's misfortune. Work has become my best helper. It has enabled me to recapture my confidence and my skill to sell. I was overjoyed that I had been able to, in many ways, to repay him for the encouragement he had given me. One evening, Swazi came to me in deep distress. Thy master is in trouble. I fear for him. Some months ago, he lost much at the gambling tables. He pays not the farmer for his grain nor his honey. He pays not the money lender. They are angry and threaten him. Why should we worry over his folly? We are not keepers, I replied thoughtlessly. Foolish youth, thou understandest not. To the money lender didst he give thy title to secure a loan. Under the law he can claim thee and sell thee. I know not what to do. He is a good master. Why? Oh, why should such trouble come upon him? Nor was Swazi fears groundless. While I was doing the baking next morning, the moneylender returned with a man he called Sasi. This man looked me over and said, I would do. The moneylender waited not for my master to return, but told Swazi to tell him he had taken me. With only the robe on my back and the purse of pennies ringing safely from my belt, I was hurried away from the unfinished baking. I was whirled away from my dearest hopes as the hurricane snatches the tree from the forest and casts it into the surging sea. Again, a gaming house and a barley beer had caused me disaster. Saucy was a blunt, gruff man. As he led me across the city, I told him of good work I had been doing for Nananade and said I hoped to do good work for him. His reply offered no encouragement. I like not this work. My master likes it not. The king has told him to send me to build a section of the Grand Canal. Master tells Saucy to buy more slaves, work hard, and finish quick. Bah, how can any man finish a big job quick? Picture a desert with not a tree, just low shrubs and a sun burning with such fury the water in our barrels becomes so hot we can scarcely drink it. Then picture rows of men going down into the deep excavation and lugging heavy baskets of dirt up soft, dusty trails from daylight until dark. Dang, boy. We soft as fuck now compared to these times. Picture food served in open troughs from which we helped ourselves like swine. We had no tents, no straws for beds. That was the situation in which I found myself. Dang. I buried my wallet in a marked spot, wondering if I would ever dig it up again. At first, I worked with good will, but as the months dragged on, I felt my spirit breaking. Then the heat fever took hold of my weary body. I lost my appetite and could scarcely eat the mutton and vegetables. At night, I would toss in an unhappy wakefulness. In my misery, I wondered if Zabadu had not the best plan to shirk and keep his back from being broken in work. Then I recalled my last sight of him and knew his plan was not good. I thought of Pirate with his bitterness and wondered if it might be just as well to fight and kill. The memory of his bleeding body reminded me that his plan was also useless. Then I remembered my last sight of Minigo. His hands were deeply calloused from hard work, but his heart was light and there was happiness on his face. His was the best plan. Yet I was just as willing to work as Minigo. He could not have worked harder than I. Why did not my work bring me happiness and success? Damn, boy. That's a crazy, deep question right there, y'all. That is a deep question that we probably all ask ourselves. Damn, but I had to stop on that one. Was it work that brought Medigo happiness, or was happiness and success merely in the lapse of the god? Was I to work the rest of my life without gaining my desires, without happiness and success? All of these questions were jumbled in my mind, and I had not an answer. Indeed, I was sorely confused. Several days later, when it seemed that I was at the end of my endurance and my questions still unanswered, Sassy sent for me. A messenger had come from my master to take me back to Babylon. I dug up my precious wallet, wrapped myself in the tattered remnants of my robe, and was on my way mounted behind the messenger. As we rode, the same thoughts of the hurricane whirling me hither and thither kept racing through my feverish brain. I seemed to be living the weird words of a chant from my native town of Huron, besetting a man like a whirlwind, driving him like a storm, whose course no one can follow, whose destiny no one can foretell. Was I destined to be ever thus punished for I knew not what? What new miseries and disappointments awaited me? When we rode into the courtyard of my master's house, imagine my surprise when I saw Aragula awaiting me. He helped me down and hugged me like a long lost brother. As we went out our way, I would have followed him as a slave should follow his master, but he would not permit me. He put his arms about me, saying, I hunted everywhere for thee. When I had almost given up hope, I did meet Swasi, who told me of the moneylender who directed me to thy noble owner. A hard bargain he did drive and pay, made me pay an outrageous price, but thou art worth it. Thy philosophy and thy enterprise have been my inspiration to this new success. Medigo's philosophy, not mine, I interrupted. Medigo's and thine. Thanks to thee both, we are going to Damascus, and I need thee for my partner. See, he exclaimed, in one moment thou wilt be a free man. So saying, he drew from beneath his robe the clay tablet carrying my title. This he raised above his head and hurled it to break in 100 pieces upon a cobblestone. With glee he stamped upon the fragments till they were but dust. Tears of gratitude filled my eyes. I knew I was the luckiest man in Babylon. Work thou see by this in time of my greatest distress, this proved to be my best friend. Work thou see by this in the time of my greatest distress, this proved to be my best friend. That's one of my favorite quotes for myself, y'all. All problems can be solved with work. And it's like, yeah, I'll save that. I hope that train ain't too loud, but y'all probably can't hear it too much. My willingness to work enabled me to escape from my old being sold to join the slave gangs upon the walls. It also impressed thy grandfather. He selected me for this partner. Then Harangula questioned, was work my grandfather's secret to key to the golden shekels? It was the only key he had when I first knew him. Sharunada replied, thy grandfather enjoyed working. The gods appreciated his efforts and rewarded him liberally. I began to see. Harangula was speaking thoughtfully. Work attracted his many friends who admired his industry and the success it brought. Work brought him the honors he enjoyed so much in Damascus. Work brought him all those things I have approved, and thought work was fit only for slaves. Life is rich with many pleasures for many men to enjoy, Sharunada commented. Each has its place. I am glad that work is not reserved for slaves. Were that the case, I would be deprived of my greatest pleasure. Many things do I enjoy, but nothing takes the place of work. Boy, I swear. I love work so much. The goal is to not work for money, though, but I love work, boy. What is life without work? Shawanada and Hadun Gulad rode in the shadows of the towering walls to the massive bronze gates of Babylon. At their approach, the gate's guards jumped to attention and respectfully saluted an honored citizen. With head held high, Sharunada led the long caravan through the gates and up the streets of the city. I've always hoped to be a man like my grandfather, Harun Gula confided to him. Never before did I realize just what kind of man he was. This thou hast shown me. Now that I understand, I do admire him all the more and feel more determined to be like him. I fear I can never repay thee for giving me the true key to his success. From this day forth, I shall use his key. I shall start humbly as he started, which befits my true station far better than jewels and fine robes. So saying, Harun Gula pulled the jewel baubles from his ears and the reeds from his fingers. Then reining his horse, he dropped back and rode with deep respect behind the leader of the caravan. That is beautiful, y'all. And that is The Richest Man in Babylon, bro. What a great way to end that book. And the last part is just like a historical research on Babylon, just talking about it, like historically and what it was. But like, this is a great book, man. And like, what a great way to end this book and to like wrap it up and like I say, put it in a little cajita and put a bow on the top. Like, is that work? And I was saying this earlier, one of my greatest quotes and my favorite quotes that I feel like I came up with is all problems can be solved by work. Like all problems. All problems. Every problem can be solved. Whether it's a spiritual problem, that's work that needs to be done. Whether it's a mental problem, that's work that needs to be done. Whether it's a problem, you even meditating, you have to work on meditating. You have to work, even not doing work requires work, as in resting, meditation. People say, well, go meditate. And then people will try who've never meditated but first, or people who've never meditated ever in their life, or never meditated before, or go in and they'll probably do it for a few seconds. Like, this is so hard because you must work at it. So even being able to meditate and do something that seems like it doesn't require any work at all physically, or it's supposed to have you not doing any mental work, still requires work. And I think that's a great way to like wrap this book up, because anything that you desire, any problem that you have, it requires you just to work on it. And work is focus. Focus is concentration, energy applied. What you focus on grows. What you apply energy to grows, and it becomes more of Whatever you think about, work, energy, concentration, it's all the same, y'all. So if you have an issue, work on it. If you have a mental issue, figure out what mental work needs to be done. If you have a spiritual issue, figure out what spiritual issue needs to be done. If you have a love, intimacy issue, figure out what love, intimacy work needs to be done. If you have a fucking financial issue, figure out what financial issue needs to be done, because all problems can be solved with work. I think that was a great way to wrap this book up. This is the last time I'll be reading The Richest Man in Babylon. And moving forward, y'all, I'm probably not going to read through the whole chapters. I'm probably just going to read maybe like a couple pages and then talk about it. More book club stylish, even though book clubs read whole chapters. It's just, yeah, these videos be super long, man. And I want to give y'all some information, get in and out and bank them out. Hopefully, one day I can get to the point to where videos are 45 minutes and an hour and people watch the whole thing. But I know how times is, so I try to keep up with the times. I consider myself to be a futurist. I know how times is. I know where we going, y'all. So I get like, sometimes it's painful to sit through some things, even if it's life changing. That's just how we are, man. The smart people in the world are creating technology and are making it like this. You have short form, long form. It's all changing. But yes, with that being said, hope y'all enjoyed it, man. Go check in with episode 1 through 9 of The Richest Man in Babylon. I literally read through the whole book with my actual little commentary and everything like that. But till next time, y'all, remember to stay well, be conscious, and write your world into existence. Love.